We see from 1960 when the first time the term medical device was introduced by Japan, and for the first time when CDRH of US FDA introduced the uh, the proper regulation on medical devices, there have been certain smaller changes, certain smaller things which have uh, which have appeared on various regulations. Like there was a thermometer directive given by US, the European Council. Then there were certain additional smaller devices which were regulated by Japan, Australia, UK, uh, Switzerland, Brazil, etc. But first regulation which came in was in 1968. Then after that, in 1976, the second important regulation that came out was again by the US FDA only, and that was the complete 21 CFR parts, which were speaking about the medical devices, which were regulating the medical devices. And then in 1990, now we can see the changes that 1976 to 1990, again, almost like 15, 16 years, there was nothing very specific on medical devices except for European Union speaking of the directives, the implantable device directive, active implantable medical device directive, that is AIMDD, then a complete directive on all types of medical devices, that is MDD, and then followed by that for in vitro diagnosis, that is IVDD. And then because there was a discrepancy between these three principal regulations, GHTF, Global Harmonization Task Force, was formed in 1992. We are today in 2024, but today still there is no complete harmonization. But then, like more number of population in the world that started getting covered. These were only three countries. Then Canada came in, China came in, Brazil came in, Australia came in, uh, this New Zealand came in. Uh, this was Russia. Actually, this is 323 FZ is a Russian law. Then India came in 2017 along with the European MDR. So these are various regulations. And then there are clinical trial regulations and medical device regulation amendments which were introduced in 1922 by India, China, Europe, etc. 65 countries still don't have any regulation despite. So here GHTF was formed. GHTF later became IMDRF, Medical Device Regulators Forum. There is uh, Pacific Pacific countries or ASEAN countries regulation. Sorry, Association Harmonization Regulation. So this is AHWP. Uh, this is Asian Harmonization Work for something. Then there is something similar in the South America called Mercosur. There is something similar that's happening in Americas. There is something similar which is continuing to happening. There are several. There are Africa, all those things as well. There are several countries, several harmonization uh, efforts which are going on, but still there is a large amount of countries which don't have any regulations so far. And if we speak of certain types of devices, so software as medical devices, there is barely any regulation which currently is enforced. There is a regulation, but there is hardly that regulation coming into picture in multiple places. AI/ML systems, the regulation exists, but we hardly see any regulations. And for devices under development, there are no regulations, there are no controls yet. Like medicine under regulation has a control. Devices under regulations, under development don't have any regulations or any control. So these are various challenges in medical device regulations. So if we look at why does this happen, this is because different countries require different document and no one has looked into these gaps. So if we speak of FDA, there is a FDC Act and 21 CFR Part 50 and Part 312 have formed the background for medical devices. So from there, 21 CFR Part 801 to 1100, they are the parts which take care of medical devices. So Class 1 medical devices is low risk, therefore most of the devices have a notification of exemption. So you can just simply quote that medical device name or that regulation name. Like for toothbrush, you can just simply go quote the name of that section and you can go ahead and start marketing your device. There is no requirement of clinical data, only that if the device has any complaint, there is a system existing in US for reporting at that of that complaint, and that complaint will be processed by the manufacturer after that is received by them. Class 2 medical devices requires a 510K route. So 510K, or this is like we said, pre-market notification. So pre-market notification is a route where we can show, okay, there is an already existing device which is an equivalent device of my device. Therefore, I do not need to conduct a pre-market clinical study. Okay. So in these devices, if there is an existing device in US, I can just show substantial equivalence, and based upon that substantial equivalence, my device can go ahead and submit the 510K. That 510K will be reviewed by the US FDA and they will tell if it is accepted or rejected. If rejected, then we have to go to the PMA process. If not, if accepted, I can still go ahead and start selling my device in US. But I have to wait for the answer yes or no from US. Third is the pre-market approval or pre-market application. So these devices, they need to have a lot of documentation, which includes clinical data, outside US clinical data, uh, in certain devices may be allowed, but in many devices that outside US clinical data may not be allowed. In that case, I may have to go with investigational device exemption, conduct a clinical investigation in US and submit that report. When that report is submitted, I get the permission to sell. So this is a difference between class 1, 2 and 3 devices in US.